Metropolis is an artificial intelligence company for the real world. We fundamentally believe that it should be just as easy to navigate the physical world as it is the digital one. But today, that's hardly true. The physical world remains hopelessly analog. There are a ton of friction points. And so we started by fixing parking, partially because it's ubiquitous and because it's a nightmare. And in practice, what that means is we've developed a proprietary computer vision platform that recognizes your car when you drive into a parking garage, and it seamlessly charges you for parking when you drive out. There's no tickets, there's no stopping to pay for parking, none of the traditional pain points that you typically associate with parking. And in just a few years, we became the largest operator of parking in the United States. We currently manage about 4,500 locations across the country, and we have 20,000 employees who use our technology with customers every single day. And we're just beginning to deploy our technology across adjacent verticals, so refueling or quick serve drive-through, essentially anywhere where there might be a retail transaction that starts from your car, and soon we'll be even expanding beyond the vehicle. And so I'd say, at Metropolis, we talk a lot about this idea of building the recognition economy, sort of like a super intelligence that powers frictionless, personalized experiences everywhere, an AI system that eliminates the need really for constant check-ins and re-authentication where your presence is simply enough. I think, I like to think of it as sort of like a post-device world, if you will.
So explain to us a little bit how you were actually deploying AI to make all that stuff that seems like magic happen.
Totally. So we've built, we believe in computer vision as the mechanism through which we will essentially create a technology layer that we place over the physical world and enables seamless and personalized experiences everywhere. With that, we had to start with a unique identifier, which was first the license plate, and then we've since expanded to be able to essentially take a fingerprint of the vehicle, and so the vehicle itself is the unique identifier. And we, through camera systems that we've deployed, we recognize the vehicle and we provision access and allow for payments. And so the machine learning behind it and the engineering is very sophisticated. I'd say the product application is actually quite simple.
Fascinating. That's all about the computer vision. Riley, what about your company? How are you using AI in a similar way? And explain to us how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so it's great to be here. So I'm Riley. I'm one of the founders of Ergonomics, and we are using computer vision, but the application is very different. So we're using AI and computer vision to tackle the entire realm of musculoskeletal sprains and strains. So think hurting your shoulder, hurting your back. And so taking a little step back, this is a around $50 billion industry. So it's thought that around $30 to $50 billion are lost each year due to these sprains and strains at people out in the field. And so from a company's level, that translates roughly to around $30,000 to $50,000 per injury. And so the incumbent way of tackling this issue, if you are in a facility or out in the field or in a factory, is you have someone walking throughout the field with a paper clipboard, pencil, and a protractor. And what they'll do is they'll watch someone doing their manual handling job, moving boxes, working on a production cycle, and basically use that protractor to map out and say, okay, they're bending their back at 60 degrees, yes, right, filling that into the worksheet. Are their arms twisting? Yes, so on and so forth. It takes about an hour to do one assessment. So what our platform allows the user to do is to basically forgo that entire manual input system, right? So all you have to do on our platform is take out your cell phone, take a video of someone performing a task, and then we'll pull all that information out from the video feed using joint pose estimation and do that same assessment for you. So what used to take an hour, hour and a half can now be done within 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And what's really cool is we can actually pull back and look at our entire repository of previous jobs that we've seen over the past 5 years that have we've been able to improve, and then actually give AI-generated recommendations on how to fix that job. All, again, within 30 seconds to a minute. So, across our over 200 customers, we see on average about 100,000 assessments done per year. This correlates roughly to around $400 million that has been saved for our customers over that time.
And so your customers are the factory owners, the manufacturers who want to protect their employees and have to, both from a regulatory standpoint and also to just protect their employees.
Right, exactly, yeah. So, some of our bigger customers, Bridgestone, John Deere, Delta Airlines, actually, funny enough. So we're used for their flight attendants at their training centers to help, with lifting form, as well as large food processors like Pruno Foods.
I could use an ergonomic assessment of my ability to put a bag into the overhead bin, as many people here probably could. So what's fascinating to me about both of your businesses is that you're working in totally different fields. You are both using computer vision as your way to collect data, and both of you have to work with these very large companies in fields that maybe aren't as accustomed to this kind of AI data and AI recommendations. When I think about what you're doing, Courtney, and getting these giant municipalities on board, you're converting them not only to a new contract, but to an entirely new type of business. Whether you're working for a real estate company and trying to negotiate them to put you into their parking garages or municipality, how are you explaining to them the value of this entirely new type of service?
Totally. You know, I think so much of it has to do with the fact that we are, yes, a B2B company from the perspective of who is contracting Metropolis to operate the parking garage, but we're ultimately a consumer company, right? People use Metropolis because they know that they can park at a Metropolis garage without all of the friction associated with typical parking. When you go to a fuel pump where there's Metropolis, you can refuel your vehicle without having to stop and put your credit card. And so our view is that if we use AI to create a better experience for people who park their car, they're going to preference the location that a real estate owner has as opposed to the garage across the street that might not have that technology. And so I think most people think about leveraging AI to either eliminate cost, create operational efficiency. There's some element of that, but for us, it's really about a consumer experience uplift and driving preference through the utilization of the technology. So there's that. And then the other thing is obviously data, right? I think there are very interesting digital footprints that all of the major tech companies have collected and been able to generate insights from. For us, very responsibly, we have origin destination data. We know where people are actually moving in the real world, and we can start to put together essentially a member graph of their physical world footprint and insights to real estate owners of these are the people who come to your building, and this is where they validate, and these are the types of profiles of vehicles that are here, this is the duration of stay. It gives them information about what used to be a black box and used to just be kind of cash collections.
I'm going to ask a Senator Blackburn question. Are there privacy concerns?
I think so. Yes, there could be. I think as a result of that, we start from the position of we have to be incredibly responsible with the data that we collect. We, of course, don't sell that data to anybody. We use it to create, once again, a better experience for people and to create a network whereby people can use Metropolis, yes, in garages across the United States, but across other verticals where there's a retail transaction from your car. And so, you know, we, of course, meet the protection standards that we would need to in any sort of government or regulatory regime, but fundamentally, we're all about consumer trust, right? Like being a B2B2C brand means that we are only successful if people want to use Metropolis and they don't want to use it unless they can trust us with their data. So that's something that we take very, very seriously.
Yeah, fascinating. So Riley, to the same extent that Courtney's had to negotiate with municipalities and big buildings or building owners, you've broken into these very entrenched businesses. How have you been able to convert giant companies like John Deere or Delta to work with you as a new type of company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the approach we've taken, especially from a go-to-market perspective, is to go bottom up. And so from the company's perspective, when they're looking to do a corporate rollout of our software, you know, ultimately they're just wanting to see an ROI, right? They want to say, I had X number of injuries last year, I'm looking to have Y number of injuries this year, can your software help me do that? And what we typically see is about a 68% to 70% reduction year over year after the implementation of our software and tackling those sprains and strains. And you know, that narrative obviously works very well for people high up, people up at corporate. Our big success, though, in actually getting a wedge into these large companies is just actually going towards the end user, which in this case is going to be, typically it's someone of the title environmental health and safety specialist or industrial hygienist. And the conversation there is to say, we know you're doing these assessments. We know it takes an hour and a half. We know you don't like doing these assessments because it takes an hour and a half. How great would it be if you can automate that process? And now all the time that you're spending on safety for your colleagues is focused on actually translating that information into the real world so that they can, you know, operate their job cycle in a different way. and then getting buy-in from the actual beneficiary of the technology, really, which is the manual handling employee, the conversation is very easy, right? It's as easy as turning it around and saying, look, your entire skeleton is in red doing this job. That's really bad. You're going to develop a back strain, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next week, but certainly in a year. We can help you make that not happen, right? And that goes very far in getting buy-in from all different aspects of the business.
The data speaks for itself, like I was saying earlier about Nashville.